Well, it's more extensive than we've ever known it before. I was around for the flooding in 2005 and 2009, and this has gone deeper and further than we've ever known in the past. The extent of water that fell was absolutely staggering, and it fell very, very rapidly, and that was partly what caused the defences to go. And when I went up yesterday to Carlisle, there were still very extensive floods around. There were still people in rubber dinghies and boats bringing some of their possessions and some of their relatives out of the houses. And this was unprecedented because in the past the water's gone down much more rapidly.
We've seen a lot of pictures from Carlisle on the TV news, but I understand that it's very much affecting the surrounding area as well.
Well, it is. It's not only Carlisle. In fact, I live in Keswick and was able to watch the flood happen on the Saturday, and it was absolutely staggering. The sheer power and surge of the water was quite frightening, and the speed with which it overcame the defences and rushed down the streets and poured into people's houses and into the shops was extraordinary. Now, this morning, I was out and you wouldn't really know from the roads that it had flooded at all, because the water has gone back down. But the park, just on one side of the river, looks like a scene from the First World War. And of course, shops and houses have now outside them the beginnings of all the debris and ruined possessions and furniture that people are beginning to throw out.
How are people coping with this?
Well, the coping is one of the positive aspects of this whole situation, because as we've discovered in the past, when disasters happen, and I'm sure this happens in other places, but it's particularly true in Cumbria, there is the most extraordinary resilience, good humour and rallying around, and the cooperative working not only of the emergency services, who have been superb, and also people like supermarkets who've been providing food free, and small businesses who've been helping with all kinds of offers, but just the help from ordinary everyday people has been outstanding. I was in a couple of reception centres where some of the victims of the flooding were being temporarily put up, and people were pouring in with offers of clothes, with food, and in some cases children bringing their own toys so that other children could play with them.
And how about the churches? How have they responded
Well,
to
the
this
churches
crisis?
have been fairly central to a lot of the work that's been going on. They've swung into action, as they always do on these occasions, and I've been very proud of the way in which they've reacted. We do have certain procedures in place, and those have worked well, with coordinators for particular areas. But I think what we've found again and again, and it's certainly been true on this occasion, is that the church does act as the focus and centre for a community on these occasions, and that works tremendously well, and people look to the church and expect the church to be involved and to have a very positive social action role.
What is the message of the church to the people who have been
I
so
think the
badly
message
affected?
of the church is, first of all, that we are praying for you. Second, that we're putting that prayer into action with the positive things that we're doing to try and help through food, clothing, accommodation, and helping people simply through talking with them and listening to them. But also that we're very conscious that this is going to be a long process. Last time it took some people up to 18 months to get back into their houses. We're conscious that after all the initial razzmatazz has sort of calmed down, there will be a lot of people who are deeply shocked and deeply traumatised, and our message to them is that we will be with them as long as it takes.
Yesterday you visited many of the affected areas, and including 2 reception centres in Carlisle, one of them a church reception centre and Carlisle's infirmary. I wondered how people are coping in those centres. And
they're coping brilliantly in the centres, and the spirit was very good. The volunteers and helpers included quite a number of children, because of course all the schools have been closed, and so the children are off school, but they'd come in with their parents to help, and that was absolutely brilliant. In the infirmary, Cumbrian Infirmary in Carlisle, they were without power, as many of the houses are, so they were working on a generator. They'd cancelled all elective surgery, but they were doing emergencies. And the spirit there was very good too, and the matron was telling me that quite a number of staff, both nurses and consultants and surgeons, had come in specially on their day off in order to help. And so everybody really working well together, and the coordination by the emergency services has been spectacular.
Have you been personally affected by the floods?
In my own house, no, we haven't. We've been incredibly fortunate because we are up a bit of a hill in Keswick, and most of the flooding is down at the bottom. I was affected in the sense that at one stage we were completely blocked off, and I was going to take a licensing on Saturday afternoon and was turned back by the police because I couldn't get through to the West Coast.
And also, I understand a few churches have been flooded in your diocese.
In that respect,
right?
Most certainly, and there are certainly 3 churches that I know specifically. I went into 2 of them, and 1 or 2 vicarages have been badly affected as well. But on the whole, we've been remarkably unscathed compared with many other people in the population.
Do you know roughly how many people have been affected in your diocese?
Figures have been given out on the news. The exact number who've been made homeless, I don't know at the moment and wouldn't want to hazard a guess. A lot of people lost power too. I think it'll be well into the hundreds, probably into the thousands.
And could I ask you again what the Church's message is for people in the...
For them, yes. The message is very much that we're with them not only now, but also in the longer term, and that we will help practically as well as spiritually and emotionally in every way we can.